Cool. Yeah. So I mean, an interesting things happened is one of my good friends, Stefania Pastorelli, has been chatting with the person I'm chatting with today, Shivanand. Um, he was a monk for 35 years, and then decided to change maybe, and is now administering 5-MeO-DMT in the form of Bufo Alvarius, the frog medicine. Now, I've never done the frog medicine, but what was really interesting to me is when I was talking to Stefania, she's not doing it either, but she had mentioned to me that when she was talking to Shivanand, after he'd taken the Bufo, he had done an energy transfer to her, and she'd felt this massive energy radiating off him. Now, if you followed my channel a bit, you'll know that Stefania is a very experienced Palera who works with a lot of the Amazonian plants. So that was quite impressive to hear that she got that kind of energy from just from an energetic impact. So I've been talking to Shivanand now, which is a spiritual name, for the last week or so, a couple of times, and I also have experienced a little bit of this energy transfer because I'm going through this difficult family time in my life, and he called me up and did this energetic thing, and it was wow, it was really cathartic and powerful experience. Now, one of the cool things in my mind about Shivanand is his experience spiritually. So I'm going to switch this over to you, Shivanand. Can you tell us more? Tell us the experience you had when you were a monk. Does that actually transfer over into what you're doing now? Because it seems kind of different to a lot of people.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, what I can tell you is the monk life was preparation. What does it mean? It means many years of inner work, clearing emotions, clearing mental concepts, and trying to focus on the source of consciousness. To become more receptive for what is beyond the things we create for ourselves, all the way we think, how we are having the imprints from our parents, from the environment we grow up. The situations in life where we got hurt deeply, all this is imprinting in us as a way we learn to deal with life. But it has nothing to do with who we are as a pure essence, as a soul, or you can call it the Buddha nature, you can call it Krishna consciousness or the Christ principle. It doesn't matter for the consciousness itself, how you want to name it. And so basically the Bufo experience is actually an initiation. And my question is, who is ready for initiation? I guess there are many people raising their hands and say, I'm ready. But first we have to clear our bodies from heavy toxication. We have to detox. We need to detox our emotions. We need to detox our mind, perception, the way we perceive life. And this is a full-on work. And before this going ahead, you don't get the essence of the Bufo experience. And on top, there are facilitators who give very strong doses, which are not of benefit for someone who is not prepared. So the way I wish to introduce this powerful medicine of transformation is there is a need of teamwork on different levels. And with the help of Stefania, I'm able to do it because I don't have much knowledge of plants. My way was purely spiritual, focusing on consciousness for over 35 years. And she has this beautiful wisdom how plants can support the process of purification, how plants, the essence of the mother, can bless us. Because plants are in a very natural way, in an organic way, connected with Mother Earth. They're part of Mother Earth. That is not distorted like we humans, because we humans, we create our own world and our own reality. The plants, they are connected with the reality of Mother Earth. The minerals are connected. The animals are subconsciously connected. The humans are connected when they awaken. So, coming back to your question is, I did a lot of basic work on the emotions, on the mind, on the mental concepts that we create for ourselves, and try to look beyond these imprints. And the interesting thing is, with the 5-MeO Bufo experience, I was able to go much deeper because the sense of I is being dissolved for some time. And for that, there is no interference of your point of view. So this is the sacred experience when you have a preparation. It can take you very deep into a process of transformation, which is not taking place in your mind. It takes place in all the cells of your body, introducing a higher vibration to your system and transforming it to a higher expression than the individual expression.
Amazing. That's really interesting. It seems like what you're talking about there is how Bufo is able to break through a lot of the layers and emotions and get right into some kind of like, I don't know, like a non-dual state where you can see reality for what it really is. But you also mentioned there that that like perhaps working with plants can help with this. Now I know like Stefania gave me a lot of advice in the last couple of years about to do different plants, and that really did seem to sort of clean out or sort of help clean out different emotions and stuff like that. Do you see that kind of thing would be beneficial in the context of Bufo? Because it's not. The funny thing is, you know, you see a lot of people doing ceremonies or advertising retreats for Bufo and other medicines, and they tend to do these really high dosages, like you said, and they tend to, like what I've seen is it'll be like 3 days and they do lots of different medicine, then everybody leaves. But it's almost like what you're saying is you're saying you need sort of to prepare first. Like you need to prepare for the experience. And you would see plants as some kind of way of working with that, like in the same way as, like for example, Bufo seems to be from a different tradition than ayahuasca. Maybe it's there are similarities. Is Bufo, it's South American, that's from the same area, right?
As we know, Bufo is not yet connected officially or knowingly to a tradition. And that's why it is quite free how you use it. And there is the goodness about it and there's the danger about it. Because there's not so much experience with this most powerful medicine known up to now on this planet. So to deal with it wisely, you need first to have a good soul connection to your source. And you need to have a very deep empathy, compassion, to feel with the person to whom you want to introduce the medicine. And of course, as I said, once the preparation work has been done carefully with someone who has a deep knowledge of how to purify the body. Stefania has this gift because she went a very, very tough way. I don't know any shaman that was able to go this kind of way, even close to the experience of death.
Yeah.
Out of her longing to understand how the medicine, the plants work. So in this teamwork, I see a lot of complements, like how you say, complement?
Yeah.
Complementary, yeah. My English is also not the best, I'm sorry. I'm German origin, German-Iranian. So it is like working on different levels to make a deeper inner understanding available. So it is not about you going into Bufo and experiencing something and then everything is changed. Observe the people who have taken Bufo, they go back to the world with the same problems and they forget their experience, or maybe it's just slightly there as a memory. It was really nice, it was a nice trip.
Yeah.
But this is not an initiation process.
How do you see the difference between that and an initiation? How would that?
Initiation needs preparation. That means working on the body, working on the emotions, working on your concepts that you create for yourself, about the way you perceive the world. And so to at least have a process of purification, to at least know that your perception on the emotional level of like and dislike is just colored by your sense of I. It's not an absolute reality. It is an interdepending reality. And in the same way, in the mind, we have so many concepts, so many ideas that we are not able to look at the plant and just see how the plant is alive. We put a name on it, and we put a concept on it, but we don't perceive the spirit of the plant, the spirit that is manifesting itself through the plant. And this is a gift that Stefania's got, and she's introducing me this new way of perceiving life, and it is beautiful. Since I'm working with Tamamuri, for example, as I said, it is new for me to work on the body. I'm totally only focused on consciousness, on spiritual approach, but give the body very little attention. And now I can see there are aspects in my body that needs to be transformed through the force of the healing through the mother, through her plants. And for that you need someone who understands that reality. So I started to work with Tamamuri, and about after months, I woke up in the middle of the night. I have to say Tamamuri is an Amazonian plant that has no psychedelic. It is purely medicine, healing plant medicine. But what happened to me is I woke up in the middle of the night, seeing within myself a tree. And it was on an etheric level. It was not physical. It was as an energy that has been introduced to me through the plant. And because I worked on the conscious level, it's easy for me to connect from the soul level and see what is happening. Okay? So I observed this tree was like a golden tree with golden branches. And it was waving, it was nearly as if it is happening within an ocean, the way it was moving. First I thought it's the wind that is moving it, but it was more a movement in the ocean. And as we know, life is coming from the ocean.
It's interesting too, because tamamuri, I believe, is a tree which grows beside the rivers. So it's related quite a lot to water. And it has fruits, I guess, which are kind of like plums or something like that. So it is quite a water plant. So it's interesting you got the water imagery there. Wow, that's cool. Now, when you did this, have you found it like to be like what you're saying, like it's sort of this cleansing effect? I know Stefania uses it sort of to cleanse like the colon and the sort of interior system before people do ayahuasca. Have you experienced, did you find any, have you felt any effects during your Bufo ceremonies, like in terms of clarity or this kind of thing?
Yeah, I must say, since I work with Stefania, with the plants, my connection goes much deeper, and my connection is a connection of service. It's not about me, it's not about my transformation. It's about seeing the suffering in the world. There's so much of it. Most of the suffering we create for ourselves. And there's the good news. If we have created the suffering for ourselves, we have the power to dissolve suffering that we created for ourselves. If we will be victims, there's no choice. And there are situations in life where we are forced to experience suffering without our wanting. There we don't have any influence. But look how much of our suffering is created by ourselves, the way we perceive things, the way we have expectations, the way we project things on our partner, and we want them to fulfill our expectation.
Yeah.
So then we better clone ourselves, then we will maybe get fulfillment, but otherwise it's impossible, because every individual has its own needs, its own longing, and the more we get close to the source of who we are, the more we can feel what is our true needs. And that is where a gate is opening towards the soul, because if we can go deep enough to perceive ourselves as we are beyond the imprints of our parents, of society, and so on, if we see what is there deep, deep, deep inside ourselves, this is the gate to the soul. Because we have come in incarnation with a particular desire to make a particular experience in life. And the more we can really feel what is our need, what is our urge, what is our longing, we connect to the force of our soul that has come for a particular experience.
It's interesting what you're saying about how, well, it's almost like how you perceive it is like there's the person down here, up above is like the soul, and then in between there are layers of thoughts, images, emotions, body issues, ego. And it's interesting because I've not done Bufo, but I've done quite a bit of ayahuasca, and my experience is that it is possible to penetrate through that with ayahuasca, but often what happens is you might be in some of those other realms in between. and navigating between the sort of the architecture of how those are all put together. But it seems to me that what you're saying is that, and I think this is pretty well known, that Bufo has this tendency just to push right through that instantly. Do you think that that can be challenging sometimes to, I mean, I guess it can be challenging if it's a large dose, but you're focused on, it's interesting you're focused on the smaller doses. What brought you around to focus on that?
Particularly when you introduce the medicine to someone, you don't want to hit him away like a rocket. You first want to make the person become comfortable with the medicine. So you give a small dose just as an introduction that the person has already a feeling how this medicine is working. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't want to give a shock to the whole system because it is going beyond everything. It can be also lead to a traumatic experience when you are not ready, when you are not ready to let go, when you are not ready to look beyond your sense of I. It is a shock. It is close to the experience of dying.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with that wisely, with good preparation of body, emotions, and mind, and sense of I, in order to perceive the blessings, you just perceive a mental experience of unity, but there's no way you can integrate it into your system. Partly you can, and you can take it with a lot of gratitude, but it's not the kind of transformation that has been people are trying to sell the medicine. The transformation comes through teamwork, like with the plants, preparation, with meditation, preparation, then introducing the medicine in a very gentle manner to get a feeling for it. And then when you're ready to give a little bit stronger dosage, and then when in the time when you feel that person is open to receive the sacredness of the medicine.
Sacredness. How do you conduct it when you've got when you're administering the Bufo? You do it like it's done ceremonially, or it's how does a ceremony actually like work for you, or how does it happen?
So basically, there are different approaches. Mainly, I use the medicine and I become, it's the wrong expression, sorry. I don't use the medicine. I become an instrument for the medicine for healing work. And where does humanity need healing? It is in the heart, in developing compassion. If our heart is open, if we are open to compassion, are you able to kill someone? Are you able to hurt someone? You're hurting yourself, you're killing yourself. So this is the approach. Bufo Alvarius has this gift of opening the heart and making you understand how everything is in a very sacred way connected to life. There's one stream of life with billions of shapes through which life expresses itself in different manners.
That's interesting. The way you said that, it sounds almost like there is a psychedelic aspect of this then. There are visuals as you're doing this?
There's normally little visuals. You enter right away into the clear light emptiness. But from that perspective, you are able to look onto life with the infinite eyes, which means This may be similar to an ocean full of glass vessels. Within the vessel is water, around the vessel is water. And this is how you perceive that there seems to be slight difference of or big difference of the vessels, but it's the same water inside, it's the same water around them. And this is what consciousness is all about. It is only one source of consciousness expressing itself to billions of shapes, but the essence has ever been the same.
You ever get into that space of like you've done a lot of meditation? Did you find after doing Bufo that it changed your meditation practice? Because if you can enter into this space of pure consciousness at a moment's notice, does meditation, is it still valuable afterwards, meditation?
Can you keep that for later, because I still didn't answer your question.
Oh, sorry, sure.
The question was about how I do the ceremonies. So there are different ceremonies. There is the ceremony where when I focus on an individual, like if it takes place in a one-to-one, I first try to perceive what does the soul in incarnation, my opponent, what is its needs? And how can that person deal with this medicine? So I try to feel, and sometimes I feel I need to join the person in the experience. That means I let the person take the Bufo, and immediately after I take it to go with the person into that state together. Just to hold the space and to help also when there is a need of a deeper healing work, for example. Then it is like I have developed a group. It's called the Healing Circle of the Heart. And in this group, our focus is in opening our heart to unity in order to be able to function as an instrument of the soul to reduce suffering in the world. So the focus is not so much in the personal experience, but it's more what is bringing us together, where we see our connectivity, where we can perceive ourselves as part of, as from a bigger reality, which is we are parts of Mother Earth. But at the same time, we are parts of the divine consciousness. The Hindus may call it Shiva, and in other religions they might call it different, God or whatever. So it is the spirit of life. It is the most essential expression of life itself beyond form, as a potential, as a formless state of pure awareness. And so the pain we observe on our planet, it is not the pain of an individual, it is the pain of the mother. It is the pain of giving birth to a higher consciousness. And this pain is actually what you perceive in the world, the conflicts, the pain that an individual has to go through. It is the pain of the mother, of realizing herself that she, in essence, embodies the spirit of life. So the more individual cells of her perceive this understanding that we are an expression of divine consciousness. This is the way of transforming suffering in the world. And this is the focus on the way I try to organize retreats in the coming year. And with the help of Stefania, how we can help individuals to look beyond the veil, to see their connection and to learn to open the heart. Because once we open the heart, we will naturally behave in the right way. We will be mindful with to whom we are creating suffering, and we will be more careful about this. And it's not just about us human on this planet. There are so many vessels of life. The kingdom of the minerals, the kingdom of many, many spirits. And there is the kingdom of the souls. That means the souls are actually always in collective consciousness. They don't have this experience of individualized being. The souls, there is like the collective consciousness of humanity, which is on the soul level, we are all connected. There is no question about it. There is the connection in the plant and in the animal and in the mineral. It is coming all to one particular expression of a group consciousness. And so within this field, there is a particular experience that a kingdom goes through in order to life be able to experience itself within form. But life as such is actually consciousness, is awareness. But it needs the form in order to realize itself, in order to transform form into consciousness. And this is the pain of the mother. It is giving birth to consciousness, and it is a process of many million years we are taking part in. And so you can observe humanity has gone through different processes within this evolution. There is the evolution of the instincts. That was the prehistoric man that was connected with having instincts in order to survive. So these instincts are based on deep fear of not being able to survive. So we have the instinct of survival, we have the instinct of procreation, we have the instinct of the herd instinct, like stay together in order to be safe. And we have the instinct of wanting to know. This, as an instinct, the wanting to know is, for example, in the animal kingdom, it is figuring out whether something is dangerous or not, whether it's something dangerous for your life or not. So all the instinct of wanting to know with an animal is to find out whether what is facing is dangerous or not. And with human, it went a step farther, like wanting to know deeply why things are the way they are. So it has created our ability to memorize, our ability to compare, our ability to wanting to know deeper, like a scientist, for example. A scientist goes so deep until he understands the cause of something. So then there's also the instinct of how you call it, of individualism, of I am the stronger one, I am better than you. So all this process of how you call that, what you see in society, whoever is the stronger is the fitter, the right of the strongest, the right of the fittest. So this is one part of this expression of this instinct of individualism. And these instincts is the first level of experience of human consciousness within the field of survival on Mother Earth. Then we develop the intellect. And this is where most of human beings are. They are an expression of the instincts and they are an expression of the intellect. But then if the evolution goes on further, there is the development of intuition. And intuition is the holistic understanding that brings in soul understanding, soul consciousness. And this is where something new is happening, because you start to see the whole picture. Up to now, we only see details, but we cannot see the whole picture. You have all kinds of specialists in all kinds of fields, but can you name me a human being that is able to see the whole picture? So this is in the direction consciousness within human experience goes into a more holistic understanding of how everything functions. And it is more an organic understanding about that everything is connected to the breath of life. The inhalation is the expansion and the exhalation is the contraction. This is happening in everything. You can even observe it, if you could, you can observe it in the universe. It is an expression of expansion, and there will come a time where it will collapse into itself. And this is how life always has expressed itself, through manifesting, expanding, and again going back to the formless.
It seems to me that your knowledge of meditation, or the work you've done sort of studying or contemplating consciousness, is really important, or it's given you the tools to understand the Bufo experience better. Like a lot of people might do Bufo and just be like, wow, it was a great trip, or they don't know what happened. Whereas you've actually got the vocabulary to describe what you've seen. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is when you take the medicine as a tool of initiation, it is extremely powerful in making you understand the deeper secret of life. When you take it as a trip, it's going to be a trip that's fun, but it's not getting to what the medicine is capable of opening inside of your heart. So that's why there's a need of preparation. And the longer you have time to prepare, the stronger can be the experience. So if we work on 1 or 2 weeks, then we have time to prepare a foundation where this experience can go very deep.
I think that's really important, like what you're doing, because it's quite different what you're sort of thinking of doing here. It's like having this period of preparation where people sort of prepare their body, then they do the Bufo, and then there's like a period afterwards where you're kind of like processing or integrating, I guess the word people use these days, right? Exactly. What kind of stuff in the integration part? What is that? So what would that consist of? Like meditation more than anything, or plants, or?
Yeah, let's put it this way. There is like working with plants. In between, there is a gentle introduction to the medicine, like a small dosage, just for you to perceive how the medicine feels like. Okay, and with this process will take like a couple of days, where there will be a lot of preparation with meditation. That means at the same time we clear the body, we also work on through meditation on clearing our personal emotions, and also there is clearing the mind from concepts. So this is what we prepare people with the plant medicine, through meditation, also through certain rituals which will open us more to the realm of the spirit. And then after a couple of days there comes the introduction to the medicine, and we still continue to work with the plants. And then there's a proper Bufo experience when there is a good preparation, and when the mindfulness is strong enough to know what you are facing. Then the medicine is pure healing, and there is no way that it can create confusion. But it needs the preparation. This is the point.
Yeah. So in this integration, one more question is like, what is the dosage? What is it? You give a low dosage. What is that dosage generally? It just varies based on the size of the person, or you judge them spiritually, or how does that work out?
Well, in Mexico, normally they give a dosage of 70 and sometimes even 100 milligram, which I find irresponsible what they are doing. I mean, there were cases where people died, and also treating the situation, the crisis of a person in a wrong way, pouring water in their mouth that they couldn't breathe anymore. I mean, this thing you cannot do when someone is not aware what's going on. It's just absolutely crazy. I cannot give you a clear percentage of milligrams. I go with my intuition and see what is right to introduce. So it is a very individual work, but I never go stronger than 50, because I know 50 is still on the safe side, where someone can experience Bufo and come back in good condition. But never as an introduction, never so high, much less.
What's the lowest dosage you could give? I mean, for example, for me, I'd love to do Bufo, but I'm like hypersensitive to pretty much anything. So maybe I couldn't do it. But is there like a threshold of dosage where you don't really get anything out of it? Like if I was to do 10 milligrams, maybe nothing would happen.
No,
probably
something will happen, but we'll be gentle enough that you can deal with it well, and it is a way of getting a feeling of how the medicine is working and what it does. Yeah. So, yeah, it could be something like 10 milligram, 15 milligram as an introduction for someone who's maybe bigger, maybe 20, something like this. Like, it depends also on the physical size of the person. It depends on whether someone represents more a fiery energy. Fiery energy needs a small dosage, because already the medicine is pure fire. So interesting. And these things you have to see. It is not you cannot explain that to someone who cannot see it. You know.
As the facilitator, when you take Bufo, can you read the people better? Like when you take the Bufo, you can sort of read where they're at energetically.
Of course, I need to be close to them, and Maybe it's also helpful to have a talk with them, in individual talk, what is, where they are, what is their problem, just to get a feeling for the personality level of a person. The soul level I can only connect with in the silence of my heart. This is nothing that I will find out through blah blah.
Yeah.
So there is a different approach. Normally when I introduce the medicine to someone, I go into silence and try to focus on that soul that has come in incarnation. And I look upon that person from that level. And then
that's what I liked when you called me the other day. That's what I felt from you. You were really sort of zoning in and trying to zone in energetically to where I was at, and trying. It felt very sort of personalized and very very tuned in. And I've been to my last ayahuasca ceremony, which I did 5 years ago. They had like 30 people in a room, and the shaman just gave everybody medicine and then didn't sing for like 3 hours. And it wasn't the best situation. There's the reason that was the last night I ever did ayahuasca. But interestingly, those shamans in ayahuasca, they do this singing, they do the Icaros. That's not part, and as you were saying, the Bufo doesn't really have a tradition. But do you sing, or how somebody takes the Bufo, and it's like 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, I guess, the experience? What's your role during that time? What's your role?
So I have different ways of approach. Sometimes I choose a music that I feel it will help the person to connect with its very individual expression of how the person feels. This is also purely intuitive. I'm using that. Yeah. So in this way, sometimes you were also asking whether the shamans, they use these invocations to the spirits sometimes of plants, sometimes of animals, and so on. I actually have practiced many years the use of mantras. So I use mantras to uplift consciousness, to help people in their process. When I feel they are really close to an understanding, I support them with the powers of mantra to, first of all, mantra comes from the word ma is eigentlich coming from manas, from the mind. Tra is protection, that which protects from the mind. So it is a way of protecting that person within the field of that experience he's going through, and introducing a higher vibration, which is an expression of the consciousness of unity. As you maybe know, in the mysticism, mantra, yantra, the geometrical forms, is one and the same. It's only different expression on different levels. Yeah. So also that's something that many people see on ayahuasca, that they start seeing geometrical forms within the mind, or even as patterns on the floor, like energetical links. And often they look also similar to the Mayan art. So the way I go with the people is very individual, and when I feel someone is going into a crisis that he doesn't find out, I immediately take Bufo and go with him, go and support and try to get him out of the suffering by taking over parts of it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I have to energetically vomit. Like on Bufo, normally you don't vomit, but it's like an energetic vomiting or another way of getting rid of it again. But it is like taking away just enough that the person can deal with. Because if I take the experience away, the person misses an experience. So, but that which is too heavy to bear, I take away.
Amazing. So in a way, you're sort of working you're working at the energy level, and so you're able to generate an energy field from like the higher consciousness area, and if somebody's having a difficult time, you can sort of inject that into the situation to neutralize it or something like that. That's amazing.
Well,
and quite shamanic.
Yeah, it's also surprising, like with the Bufo, as shamanic understanding got awake that I cannot describe. It's just there, and it's just it is a very deep shamanic work that is taking place. But you know, it is happening because I empty myself. This is what I learned in Buddhism: how to empty yourself in order to receive. You know, we are so full of our own concepts that we always have this tendency. We accept those who have similar ideas like us. We say, yeah, you're right, because I think the same. But if you empty yourself and if you know how to connect with your soul, then you are just an instrument. There's nothing to do with you as a powerful person, as a shaman or whatever, blah, blah. No, it is coming directly from the soul, and the soul, since it is in the field of unity, it knows what it needs to do. It's nothing learned. It is there as an understanding.
Interesting. So the mantras then can really guide people through this experience, and your experience in Buddhism, allowing you to clear the mind, allowing you to focus and eliminate the noise. Now, some of the noise that people get, at least in my experience, obviously you've got things like you've got the emotions. And I think for some people, like for me, when I did ayahuasca, the first thing that I experienced was like confronting emotions, family issues, and this kind of thing. But eventually, as the consciousness was more refined, you'd move up to higher areas. And you would go into this area where it was like evocational. You would evoke. Now, in those contexts, the shaman would do the evocation. But you can do this in meditation too, where you can evoke spirits or deities and this kind of thing. Does that? Now, you mentioned earlier that you were talking about the pure consciousness and how that Shiva, which is the standard interpretation of Shiva, I guess. Is there any time when you're doing this where you're actually meeting spirits, or are you above that level?
This is quite a personal question, isn't it?
Maybe, I don't know.
I can only tell you this far. There are many things happening within the field of unity. Everything is connected, and those things will react that are in resonance with the situation. So I just focus on that. But there are also spirits who are my protectors, and they interfere when situations get dangerous. For example, there was a case of obsession where some dark spirit was possessing a person. Then a spirit came, was very powerful spirit of like a phoenix, and he interfered. So this protection is there when you are in the field of unity. As soon as you think you are the doer, as soon as you think you are the magician and you are having the thread in your hand, you are bound to experience attacks. As long as you are connected with unity and let unity do the work, and you're just a servant of unity, you are protected.
Interesting. So magic opens you up to attacks because it's ego-based, I guess, right?
I mean, this is what you can observe in traditional shamanism. There is a lot of this kind of thing going on. Shamans showing each other who is the stronger by attacking each other. This is often happening in the tribes, and it's a way of getting recognition about. But just think about which level is that? Is that a pure level of consciousness, or is it a level of ego misusing energy?
Yeah. Well, it seems like the latter. It's like it's kind of ego-based, and it seems attractive, I guess, you know, because I sort of, when I turned my Kundalini on, that started happening to me, where I could start entering these magical spaces through meditation, and then you think, you know, should I do something or not, right? But I'm of the same opinion as you.
Let me tell you one thing. If the Kundalini rises properly, you are not anymore the same person. So there are three ways for the Kundalini to move. There are three channels. There's the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. These are three channels. So if the energy that wants to come up, which is a very fiery energy, that's something also in a stupid way, people try to force that energy up. But what will happen if you force a flower to open? You destroy the flower and it will never show its beauty. If you let it just give it sunshine, if you just give it water, it will naturally open when the time is right, and then the energy will just show its most beautiful face within the flower. And this is the same thing with all these manipulation of Kundalini. So the thing is that normally if the Kundalini energy goes in the wrong direction, it goes in the emotional channel or it goes into the mental channel. That means if it goes in the mental channel, you are nearly going nuts by thoughts. If it goes into the emotional channel, you have such extreme emotions that you don't know anymore whether you cry or whether you're laughing. So this is the power of Kundalini in the wrong direction. If you are able to bring it to the Sushumna, the pure awareness channel, by having a long training of meditation, clearing your emotions, clearing your mind, then the energy will just go correctly and be the channel to your soul consciousness. And that's where all the deep understanding comes in, something that you cannot read by books, but which is just there as an understanding, not as a book knowledge.
Yeah.
So, and this is what people refer to enlightenment state and so on. It is simply connecting to this consciousness that is your source within existence.
Quick question. You used the phrase earlier in the conversation, divine consciousness. And this is an interesting subject for me. A lot of people like to think that consciousness is, I was speaking to somebody last night and they were like, consciousness, that's part of me, it's part of my higher self. But my experience of higher consciousness is that when I enter into higher consciousness, it's very clear it's another order, it's another order of reality. It's divinity itself. And we are only privileged. It seems like it's everything, but we're still only privileged in seeing a small part of it. Now, people don't like to use the word God sometimes. And you're a Buddhist, or we're a Buddhist. What's your angle on that? Do you use the word God? Do you use the word divine? Do you mean it?
Depending on my mood and depending on my opponent, what my opponent can accept. If I sit next to a Muslim, I will say Allah. If I sit next to the Hindu, I will say Shiva. If I sit with a Buddhist, I will refer to the clear light emptiness.
So I'm going to ask you the big question, Shivanand. What ridiculous question. But you go into this pure consciousness, God. Is consciousness God, or is consciousness a small aspect of God? And is this something which is revealed to you by doing Bufo?
Well, God is everything.
Right.
So all these divisions are taking place in our mind. but they are not real.
Yeah.
But there's one thing important to understand, that the transformation of matter is the spirit of life. It is the essence, you may call it is the source of consciousness, you may call it's the source of pure divine awareness. Doesn't matter how you call it. The whole process of transformation is about introducing consciousness to matter and transforming matter through consciousness, creating a new aspect, which is represented in religions through Christ, through Buddha, through Krishna, through Shiva in incarnation as an avatar, like Haida. So these are just expression of the third aspect. There is matter, there's spirit, and there's the sun. And that is the expression of pure compassion and love. The Christ principle, the Buddha nature, however you may call it.
Is that pure compassion and love? Is that this? Because a lot of people are doing Bufo for healing and this kind of stuff. Is that the source of all healing? Just by its very nature, it heals. Or because we're not doing magic here, you become a channel for divinity.
You already answered the question.
I guess I might have answered already. So you just...
Love is the purest, selfless, divine love is the purest healing energy that is available to a human being.
Amazing. And that is the power which Bufo opens up to people when they take it, open their heart, and it gives them direct access to this divine love.
At the right time, when there is a good preparation, then it has this function.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing. It's really cool. And what's nice about this is how it's cool because you've got this background in meditation, and so you're very fluent in the vocabulary of consciousness, and which, you know, a lot of shamans aren't. Like, people go and do ayahuasca, and then you go and talk to the shaman, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was good." They don't tell you anything, and you're trying like, what happened? You know, why did I see aliens like operating on my stomach? Oh, it was just normal, right? You're like, okay, but they don't actually have. You don't actually know what's going on, so you're left with this astonishing experience with no explanation.
The explanation is just to support a deeper understanding, but I always pray that this understanding manifests in my opponent, the person who is taking the Bufo experience, that this person may develop this deeper understanding of the nature of love, which is the nature of the soul. We are like in between matter and spirit. And the linking point between the magnets of matter and spirit is divine love, because love is a magnetic energy. It works with attraction.
Interesting. So love is the ultimate healing energy. And so that would mean that if somebody's in the Amazon using specific trees, like Stephania, she's actually channeling some form of love, which is expressed through some of the trees. And
beautiful.
And if right, and if you're doing it through Bufo, you clear your mind, and you also become a channel for this love, which is expressed.
Yes, I mean, this is actually the goal of our work, and you have to stay humble with this work, that you don't come into this trap of believing, oh, I'm giving the purest love, and I'm the greatest, and I am the guru, and I am the enlightened. This is all bullshit. Whoever tells you this, just give him a kick and don't let him enter your life. It is a constant battle with our shadow, and it will never stop, because the shadow is the shadow. Wherever you go, the shadow is following you. So you are constantly, there is attention. So this is a very sensitive work in staying in the humble field by being beaten up by life a couple of times, enough that you become humble.
Yeah.
Then you can do this kind of work where you can, where you know it is all about consciousness. It's all about opening the heart, because if the heart opens within humanity, humanity will naturally behave properly, correct.
Yeah.
It is only due to selfishness that things go wrong. It is due to longing for power, for your own good, longing for having more money for yourself, that is creating this mess in this world. Otherwise, how is it possible that a minority of this planet is living in everything too much, and the maximum of humanity is living in a constant mess of too little? So what is justifying this behavior? A closed heart, not being able to feel compassion.
Yeah. Specifically that. It's a specific choice not to help, right? Right. It's specifically that. It's amazing.
Not only to help, but to suck the blood of others in order to become more rich.
Yeah.
You know, it's a vampire happening, you know. There is a minority that is sucking the blood of humanity. What is blood? Money is blood.
Yeah.
Understand this. What is circulating through your system? It's blood. It keeps your system running. It gives all the organs, all the cells. It gives oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay? And in a similar way, when money is circulating properly, all humanity is equally in wealth. Enough wealth to live a life in dignity.
Yeah.
So we need to change our concept of money. Money is not energy. Money is blood.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You start off with a small frog, you take some venom, you give it to a couple of people, you take it yourself, and that understanding affects how you see the whole world, including society and your place in it. Now, you've been talking for a while, so we'll just wrap it up. You're probably tired, I'm sure, but you're currently working where? You're working in Europe, I guess, right?
Yes, I work in Europe, and whoever wants to contact me can contact me. At the moment, I don't want to say where I'm working.
Yeah. But you have a Facebook group, I guess, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I can publish that later if you want, right? So it's not hard coded in the video,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's cool. So it's in Europe, so really cool. So you don't have to fly to Peru to have this experience. You can do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a question of trust. If you feel trust in the things that I share with you, then maybe it makes sense to share this experience together.
Yeah. It's a big experience. It's a big experience that you bring to people. So trust, really important. Yeah.
Very important, because you are opening up to something powerful. So it's better to have someone around you whom you trust.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't I wouldn't suggest anyone to make this experience if you feel no trust to the person who is facilitating the experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so
well, hopefully people will see this video. I think what you've got going here is a really interesting aspect, and it appeals to me because I'm into the whole meditation thing, and it's a great combination. But thanks for coming on, Shivanand.